This meeting is being recorded.
Good evening, ladies.
How are you?
And good.
Amen.
Yeah, so looks like we're on Dalet. The Bet Yosef, it says, Katav Rambam. It brings the Rambam, Hakoret Shema velo kiven libo. Pasuk Arishon. If he read the Shema and he didn't concentrate on the first pasuk, as we said yesterday, Shehu Shema Yisrael, which is Shema Yisrael, Lo Yetza Yedei Chovato. Says the Rambam, he didn't fulfill his obligation. Sha'ar im lo kiven libo yatsa. But the rest of it, he says, if you didn't concentrate, it's okay. He fulfills the obligation. Even if he was reading the Torah, as we said, in his way, or magia et parshiot, or he's fixing he's correcting it. Adkan, that's the end of the Rambam. The Katav Rashba, Bet Chaya Kore. Says the Rashba, Telekuli Alma Pasuk Rishon Tzarich Kavana. Everybody agrees, he says, that the first verse requires kavanah, requires intention. Not intention, concentration, right? That's even b'di'avad, even right after the fact. In other words, if you didn't do it, if you didn't concentrate, go back and say it again. Even according to one who says, mitzvot and tzrichot kavanah, that the mitzvot don't require intention. So over there it's talking about something else, to fulfill the mitzvah. But you have to, here we're talking about that you need concentration for what is the content of the words, the meaning of the words. So what does that mean? Don't think about other things, right? When you're saying the Shema, make sure you're thinking about the words you're saying, and not some right daydreaming going on. Right? We don't want daydreaming. In order that he should accept the yoke of heaven with his heart. Kinyan Shamu, right? Like we said, Gam ken bebracha rishona. We also said regarding the first blessing, right? We're going to say that later on. Shel tefillah of the Amidah. The first blessing of the Amidah also requires concentration. Beshil hepek enomdim, right? Where is this written? In Brachot Lamidah Lamud Bet. V'atam שבשאר מצוות שהן מצוות עשייה, כל שעשה מצוותו. So he says the reason is because when it comes to other mitzvot, as long as you've done the mitzvah, even though you didn't have intention, he did anyway the mitzvah, but that's not really the proper way. All the more so that he fulfills obligation. Im kiven that set that he had intention at least to do the mitzvah. Even though in the middle of the mitzvah he thought about other things, that's okay. But he says here we're talking about accepting the yoke of heaven, or sidur shebachim, or praising God. So here you have to concentrate. You shouldn't be thinking about other things. So this is the how they differentiated between the first blessing and the other blessings. Or ben pasuk rishon l'shar, or when it comes to Kriyat Shema, the first verse and the rest. Advarim teluim b'mitzvot tzrichot kavanah. So the mitzvot require intention or and, right? That's the question. Tzrichot mali and tzrichot mali bracha rishona mali shar brachot. What do I care about, the first blessing or the rest of it? Ad kan hashana. So okay, basically, I think we got the idea. I think we already read Dalet last time, but we'll read it again just because we did the Bet Yosef now. Probably a good idea. So it says here, Ikar Kavanahu, the Pasuk Rishon. So he says the main concentration needs to be in the first verse. Hilkach says, therefore, therefore, if you didn't concentrate on the first verse, right? He didn't fulfill obligation. Therefore, he has to read it again. Right? Even according to one who says that mitzvot don't require intention, but here he admits, right, that you have to have concentration. So, there's an funny Talmud about this in the Masechet Brachot. You know what it says there, right? It says, so the rabbi asks, right, the Talmud, the disciple asks the rabbi, okay, so we require concentration for the first verse. Okay, I got it. But he asked the rabbi like this. He says, what about it if he doesn't concentrate on the second time also? When he repeats it again, what does he do then? So, you figure the rabbi would say, okay, well, let him say it the third time. Right? That would be the logical answer, no? But the rabbi didn't say that. The rabbi says there, you know what we'll do with him, right? If he couldn't concentrate the second time, we'll take a stick and hit him with the stick. That maybe he'll concentrate better when we hit him. Why does the rabbi say this? It sounds like very harsh, no? So what's the reason why it tells us this guy, you got to hit him with a stick? You know why he's saying that? Because he's trying to tell you, if you can't concentrate for one verse, you know what I mean? One little verse, something is wrong with you, like your head is like, you got your head, there's too much fog in your head. So in order to clear out the fog, we'll have to hit you, a little bit, give you a smack. Chak! Wake you up a little bit, come on, everybody will stop sleeping.
That's called ADHD.
You can't concentrate on the first verse, even the second time. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's called ADHD nowadays.
What is it called?
ADHD.
Oh, okay, right. They have a name for everything today. Everything has a name. As if like it justifies it because they called it a name, like it's not really, that doesn't really justify it. But anyway, right, that's the idea. So the rabbi said, if you got ADHD, we'll hit you with a stick. We'll wake you up a little bit. That's the idea. Right, that's the way to do it. It's a little bit harsh, especially for our generation, We don't comprehend this kind of language. But, the rabbis were tough people. They were tough. They knew how to speak tough. I remember one time, I was speaking to my rabbi, not this rabbi that I had, the rabbi before. I had before this rabbi. So I spoke to him about this issue, but about the Amidah, as we said, right? You have concentration. You need concentration for the verse blessing. Just like the first verse over here, same thing as we just mentioned now. So I told the rabbi, I said, what about what about if I can't concentrate, even second time? So he says, that's what we'll hit you with a stick. That's what he told me. He says, that's what it says. He remembers that Gemara. Okay, he says, we'll hit you with a stick and maybe you'll concentrate better. Okay. All right. So that's the way it is. Yeah. But the truth is, I honestly have to tell you that in this generation, we are so distracted. We can't even concentrate for 2 seconds without getting distracted or without getting, diverted, but something else, with our texts and phone calls and this and that, all kinds of stuff going on. You don't have a moment you can concentrate on something. So we live in a generation where concentration is one of the hardest things, one of the most difficult things today. Because everybody's so distracted, especially when you don't come from a background of Torah, and you have all this nonsense in your head, all this junk that you've built into your head for the last 30 years, 40 years, whatever it is, right? It's hard to get it out of your system.
I think that people are concentrating. They're just concentrating on crap.
Okay, well, here's the thing, right? I see what you mean. But you know what it is? That the wise men, they say something interesting, the wise men. They say that the human being has two different modes. There's concentration, and then there's the fantasy mode, daydreaming, You understand? So daydreaming is not called concentration. Even though you're dreaming about something, you know what I mean? You've got some kind of a dream going on there. You've got some kind of a fantasy going on in your head. That's not called concentration. You know why? Because that doesn't come from the intellect. It comes from the imagination. It's a different place in your brain.
Yeah, but I wasn't really talking about that. I was talking about the stuff, the activities that you said people are preoccupied with, texting
Right.
and sexting and
Right.
this.
So here's the
makes
thing,
its own
right?
concept.
Those things are not from the intellect. They're from the, they're more from the imagination. These things, you know what I mean?
No, but when you're busy with, being on social media, and you need some concentration. I mean, your
No,
mind has to be,
concentration means, I'll explain to you. Maybe I have to define a little bit better. Concentration means you can divert your mind from one thing and think about something else. Because your mind is always in something. That's not called concentration. Your mind is just it's an imagination mode. So the concentration is called, I get myself off my imagination and start concentrating on a certain thing, focusing on something. And this is what we have difficulty with today in our times. And by the way, this is the reason you should know, right? That so many kids flunk out of school, in our generation. They can't even finish high school. You know why? Because they can't concentrate on anything. They have no concentration. Their mind is totally in fantasy mode, imagination mode. They can't stop that fantasy mode and concentrate on anything.
Mm. Well, look who they have as president to look up to. I'm kidding.
Yeah, you know, he graduated from the top of his class. You know that, right? Yeah, go. Dream on, right? That's a very big fantasy. Okay, so yeah, that's the way it is. So okay, we'll go. We got the idea. I think we got the idea. My old rabbi used to say, you know, the one I had before, as I said, right? He had a good sense of humor. He liked to make jokes, you know. So he used to tell me, he would say, when you're starting the Amidah, you know, to pray, you know, to God, the silent prayer. So he says, you know, this is how it is. Here's how it is. He says, we start in New York, you know, and we finish in Tel Aviv.
Mm.
We're jumping from one place to another. It's like you're taking a flight, you know. It's like
Yeah.
no concentration. You can't stay in one place, you know, more than 2 seconds without thinking about something else.
Yeah, well, I hear that Trump has that problem, not necessarily with concentration, but with a short attention span. But at the same time, the guy's brilliant. He's so quick and so sharp, you know.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, I understand you. I got that. But anyway, right, that's the idea. So concentration is a lost art in our times. You know, we have a very big problem with it.
It's going to get worse. You have to see what goes on in my store and the kind of people.
Oh, okay. So let me tell you something interesting, right? That we're going to get to this a little bit later, but I'll give you a little bit of an introduction to this issue, right? We just talked about the issue of concentration on the first blessing of the Amidah, right? So the rule is, over there, we're going to see in the Shulchan Aruch, if you didn't concentrate on the first blessing, you have to pray again. Go back to the beginning. Your prayer is not worth nothing like that. But, you know, comes the Ramah over there in the Shulchan Aruch and says, in our times, we can't even concentrate the next time either. In other words, if you tell me to do it again, the next time will be just as bad as the first time. So what's the point? What did I accomplish by repeating it? You know what I mean? So therefore, it says the Ramah that there's no point in repeating it. Just go on and finish it because, you know, the next time won't be any better.
I see.
You know what I mean? But when it comes to Shema, we don't say that. You know why? Because Shema is from the Torah.
Mm.
But the prayers are only derabanan. They're only rabbinical. So when it comes to rabbinical, we're a little bit more lenient, you know, in our mixed-up days, you know, times. But when it comes to something from the Torah, one verse, you can't concentrate on one verse. Then we got to hit you with a stick. That's exactly the point. You got it?
Mm. So they predicted the woke culture, huh?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but
yeah,
I don't see what the connection is exactly.
We have to be lenient on it.
Okay. All right, let's go on. So let's go to Hey. The question is, where is Hey? First, you got to find it. Here we are. Okay, here it is. There you go. So it says like this. So he says, therefore, right, as we said in the tour, that a person who was reading the first verse and he got, he dozed off. I think we read this one already. Yeah, we read it. I see. Okay, see, because they're in the wrong order here. So therefore, we read this one already. So let's do Shulchan Aruch. This bit Yosef we already read.
Yeah, it talks about the kavanah, no? On the first, he has fulfilled his obligation, correct?
Right, when he falls asleep, that whole thing.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. Yes. So good. Right. So yeah, we did this already. Okay, we did the Shulchan Aruch. Let's go to Vav. We're doing better than I thought. So it says in Vav. Let's see first the tour. Right, so says the tour. Hakoret Shema. If you're reading the Shema, Lo yirmoz be'enav, right? This is one of the things that people have to be careful. Don't wink your eyes and do signals to people, those eye winks, those signals you're sending to your friend. You can't do that. But also don't make some kind of lip movements, as if like you're silently talking to somebody. Right? And also don't check your fingers, So he says, right, that what's the problem with doing these things? Because it bothers the concentration. You can't concentrate when you're doing these silly things. So therefore you got to avoid that stuff. So then he goes on to say, right? So he says, we're not talking about the whole thing, the whole Shema. Only the first paragraph, he says, right? You cannot do signals. No signaling, right?
I'm sorry, did you say the first paragraph or the first pasuk?
No, we're talking about the first paragraph.
Thank you.
A little bit different than what we said before, right?
Just wanted to clarify.
Right. That's good. Yeah, it's good you clarified that. So, because if you don't clarify it, you won't get the right idea. So, then it says like this. Look what he says, right? Even though we only require concentration on the first verse, but he says, Hinach asrinan hanach asrinan no b'chol perek. But he says this kind of stuff, signaling, illusions, all kinds of things like this, that we don't allow even in the first paragraph. B'chol perek. Mishum, why? Why is that? Mishum shenireh kekoret derech aray. Because he looks like he's just totally distracted. It looks disrespectful. What are you doing? Doing this kind of stuff when you're reading the Shema. You're doing all kinds of signaling and stuff. Somebody looks at you and says, "Oh my God, this guy, he's like in La La Land, somewhere, He's not even taking it seriously what he's doing." So therefore, this is the reason why they told you, right, in the first paragraph at least, behave with reverence. Don't play games, with your eyes and your lips and all kinds of games. Pointing here, pointing there. All kinds of illusions. Can't you rest for a second? That the same rabbi that I told you about. He used to tell us. He says some people got ants in their pants. They can't sit. And do something. They have to always moving around. This. What's it with you? You can't sit for a second, do something without stopping? Got ants in your pants? No good, right? That's the idea. A person has to be, take these things a little bit seriously, what I mean? A little bit of reverence. That's the idea, don't do it it's like second nature, this kind of thing. That's what we don't want, what I mean? Just I'm also checking my nails, if they need to be cut, and I'm reading the Shema also together. How's that? Yeah, it sounds great. Yeah, you're really doing a good job there. What kind of thing is that, right? You're checking your nails, you're signaling to people, you're writing texts also, right? Texts, you're texting. Oh, he's texting during the Shema. How's that? Beautiful, right? Oh. That's what we don't want, right? We don't want this kind of stuff. It's disrespectful. It's totally, it shows that you're not serious about it. Okay, good. Kativ, but it says over there, right, in the pasuk there, you should talk about them, v'darshinan aseotan keva. So what does that mean? Right? Do it seriously, don't make a joke out of it. When you ring the Shema, make sure you're serious. עוסקים במלאכתם וקוראים אפילו בראש השורות הבניין ובראש העינן ואין צריכים לבטל דווקא מפרק ראשון ואילך. So he says that which we said in the Talmud, the person who's working at that time, let's say he's a laborer, right? He's doing labor. So, but he has to read the Shema because the time came to read the Shema. So, does he have to stop laboring, stop working? So there it says in the Gemara, no. So it says the Bet Yosef over here, that's talking about after you finish the first paragraph. Then you can continue your job, and read at the same time. But the first paragraph, you got to be a little bit serious, That's the idea. But it says, so in the first parak, even if a person is working in the first paragraph, he's got to stop the working, and just read. Because otherwise it looks like, he's doing it like by the way, like, yeah, I'm reading also. Yeah, it's okay, yeah. But he says, what? If they're working, let's say, right, in a tree, right? He's cutting the branches, right, down. So he's up there in the tree, Does he have to come down to read the Shema? So no, he doesn't have to come down. You can just like stand there and read it, He doesn't have to come down. But he's got to stop working for the first paragraph. Okay, good. So then it says, great. Let's see the Bet Yosef on that, right? And we'll get back to this later on, the rest of it. So it says Bet Yosef, where is the source for this? He brings the source, Besot Perek Kama de Yoma. It's in the first Perek of Yoma, Yutet Amud Bet, in the end. Ve'okimna dehainu Perek Rishon, Davko Perek Haya Koreh. So he says, and they qualified this. It says like this: Ramele Rami Rav Mari bara de bat Shemuel le Rava. So there were two rabbis sitting there talking, right? Words of Torah, and so one brings like a contradiction to the other one. Asks him, right, how do you reconcile this? It says Tana no manim. We learned over there, it says in the Mishnah that the workers can read on the top of the tree, as we said. They don't have to come down. Or on top of, right, whatever, right? Maybe they're on a construction site, whatever, right? Whatever they may be, it doesn't make any difference. They don't have to come down from there. Just stand there and read it. Okay, so so you see from there, he says, you don't really need concentration. But it says there's something else which contradicts that, apparently. But it says if you're reading the Shema, you have to concentrate. That's what it says. So, right, apparently these two statements contradict each other. So it says, he answers, Rav Sheshat. Rav Sheshat said, that we're talking about, they're staying up there, but they're stopping the work, and reading. Right? The Korin, Be'atanya, that's the answer to the question. But it says, it brings the Braita, Bet Hillel omrim oskin b'mlachtan. But Bet Hillel says, no, they're allowed to keep working. So answers the Gemara, lo kashya, no problem. Kan b'perek rishon, kan b'perek sheni. One is talking about the first paragraph, one is talking about the second paragraph. So the first paragraph, you got to stop the work. Second paragraph, you can continue working already. By the way, the question is like this, right? Let me ask you a question. Why is the first paragraph more important than the second? You ever think about this before?
The first paragraph is naming some mitzvot, no? And the second one elaborates on them, no?
Ah. So the truth is, that the first paragraph is more like not about the mitzvot. It's more like between you and God, like, as a general. So it's more like you're accepting the yoke of heaven there. But the second part is like talking about the mitzvot, So it's a little bit of a lower level. One is talking about between you and God, and the other one is talking about you and the mitzvot, right? Whatever.
And Kavod Haraf, in the second paragraph, I've noticed also that, for instance, if you do my commandments, or if you follow everything that it says here, this, you will have this, you have blessing, you have this, you have
right,
that.
right.
And then if you don't, this is what will happen, won't happen.
Right. So it's talking about the mitzvot, basically, right? If you keep the mitzvot, you don't keep the mitzvot.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's a little bit of a lower level, but the first one is talking about, you shall love God, fear in Him, and God love Him, and it's more a higher level.
Okay, thank you.
That's the idea, So therefore, we're a little bit more concerned about the first paragraph than the second one. What about the third paragraph, by the way? The third paragraph is not really, a part of that scheme, because it's talking about tzitzit, and other things. But there's a mitzvah that we do there, which is mentioned the going out of Egypt, Yetziat Mitzrayim. That's why we say the third paragraph. So, altogether, right, it's 3 paragraphs, but first one is more important than the second one, and the second one is more important than the third one. In terms of, the importance, right? That's the way it works. Okay, good. So anyway, right, as we said, the Katav Arif, right, so says Arif, Hi Peruka, the Divrei, but it says this answer that was given to the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan holds. It's going to Rabbi Yochanan. The Sfira, because he holds the Bai Kavana Bekule Perek Rishon. So he says, Rabbi Yochanan holds that you need concentration in the whole first paragraph, right? Even though we don't paskin like that, but there is an opinion like that the first paragraph also requires concentration. But it says, according to Rava, Lav Mishum de Bai Kavana Bekule. It's not because you need to concentrate. Perek Rishon, because it says, right, that they can La arai. So he says, as we said, right, the reason is not because of concentration. The reason is because that you shouldn't make it like, into something, like a secondary nature, Not a good thing to do that. Disrespect. Like we're saying in the first chapter of Yoma, as we said, right? Person who's reading the Shema should not make allusions with his eyes, all kinds of, right, winking and stuff. Right? And it says we qualify this in the first parak. The rabbis explain, he makes it into like a second nature, habitual. The Hanami says here also, that if he's not if he doesn't stop working, same thing, right? Same problem. Rosh also says this. Rashba says Rashba. Hashem Haritz Ibn Giyat, in the name of this rabbi. Tama Mishum Decheman de Osek. So he says the reason is because since he's doing his work, right? So nimtzet mitzvah kala alav. So he says if you don't require him so much, then the mitzvah will become like light in his eyes. In other words, he won't treat it with respect anymore. If you allow him to do like things, things like this, allusions and all kinds of things. Therefore, that's why we tell him, right? Make sure you stop working when you're reading the first paragraph. And once you finish the first paragraph, you can resume your labor. No problem. It's good to remember this halakha, by the way. A lot of people, by the way, even though they know how to say Shema, more or less, this halakha they don't know. So what they do is in the first paragraph they start doing already their their alternative actions, all kinds of things, here, going here, going there, looking at your phone, this and right, this, all kinds of things. Looking at emails, how many emails did I get? How many WhatsApps did I get? Oh my God. Okay, good. So, look what he says, right? So when you're doing allusions with your eyes and lips, he says it's the same thing as like doing labor. It's disrespectful, right? It's second. You're making it into a second nature, some kind of habituation, right? That's what the Rambam says also. Zal, Perek Bet. Not like the way it's implied in Tosfot. Because according to Rava, that we hold like him, you don't have to. So Tosfot says you don't have to stop working according to Rava. Just the first verse. But most of the Rishonim don't paskin like that. They paskin that the first paragraph you could have do that whole first paragraph. So so just to recap this whole idea, when it comes to concentration, it's only the first verse. When it comes to sitting still, and just reading the first paragraph, don't start doing other activities when you reading the first paragraph, right? That's what we're trying to say, right? Doesn't have to be that you're talking. It could be that you're just pressing buttons, or as we said, right, moving your lips, or playing around with all kinds of stuff. Just hold your horses, for 1 minute, just sit down and say the first paragraph without doing ulterior activities, right? All kinds of things, right? Alternate activities. Okay, very good. We got the idea. So let's go to Shulchan Aruch, Vav and Zayin. So it says Shulchan Aruch, Hakoreh Kriyat Shema lo yirmoz beinav, right? When you're reading the Kriyat Shema, don't make allusions with your eyes. Don't wink your eyes at people, Velo ikros bisfatav, and also with your lips, right? Don't move your lips and making those strange looking, mouth movements, right? To signal to people. Velo yira'eh betzpatav, and also don't like point with your finger. Yeah, point over there, pointing over here, pointing over there. Who used to point like that, David? There was one famous guy who used to point like that. Remember who that was?
I can't think of him.
If I remind you, you're gonna be embarrassed. You didn't know about this. You forgot about it.
David Janis?
Who was the guy who used to? Yeah, he was the guy who used to point. He was famous for pointing.
Somebody that we hung with, or
no. You know who it was, right? Babe Ruth, right? The baseball player.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You remember what he used to do?
Mm.
He used to point like
he used to point. Yeah.
You remember that?
Outfield,
yeah. So don't do that when you're reading the Shema. That's what we're saying. Don't point where you're going to hit the ball.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. So it says here like this, right? So it says the Parsha Rishon. We're talking about the first paragraph only. Why? Because that's the place where you accept the yoke of heaven. The first paragraph. Because it looks like you're making like second nature, habituation kind of thing, distracted. But it says you should talk about them. The verse, good. So what does that mean, right? Make them like, serious, something, make it into a serious right, endeavor, not some kind of a joke. Don't make a joke out of it. Okay, that's Vav. Let's go to Zayin. All right. So it says in the Shulchan Aruch, Haya osek b'melacha v'ratzah likol kel Shema. Same thing, right? The person is working. He's laboring, right? Whatever, right? He wants to read Kriyat Shema. So itbatel mimlachto ad shikra parasha rishona. Don't work until you finish the first paragraph, right? Don't continue your labor, right? No making teeth, David. No making teeth when you're reading the first paragraph. Why? Because it looks like you're doing like second nature kind of thing, you know? Disrespectful. Not good. Okay, very good. That's the idea. We got that. Let's go to Het. We only have two more. We may actually finish this chapter. We may. Yeah. So let me just see what's in the bit Yosef here. Yeah, so the truth is that we already read this in the tour, this 8. So it says the bit Yosef, right? Regarding what it says in the tour, but they don't have to come down, right? If they're up in the tree, right, as we said, right? Or they're up in the construction site somewhere, they don't have to come down. They can stay up there and read there. Just stop what you're doing for a second, right? For a minute. So it says Beit Yosef, Klomar means to say, right? So it says regarding prayers, there's a differentiation between the workers and the boss. They have two different halachot there, right? Shem enam tzrichim leredet. So he says the workers don't have to come down, but the boss has to come down. Oh, why the boss? Right? What's the employer, in other words, right? Why does he have to come down? Kemo sheitbar b'siman tzadik, like we're going to explain in chapter 90. The gabe Kriyat Shema, Kriyat Shema, and chiluk b'neim. When it comes to Kriyat Shema, there's no differentiation. In other words, when it comes to prayers, we differentiate between the boss and the workers, the employees. But when it comes to Kriyat Shema, they're all the same. They're on the same boat. That's what he says. So we'll get that later on when we do prayers, right? We'll get that issue. But right now, here, there's no differentiation. So he says, let's go on. So he says, Kriyat Shema dinam shaveh. V'katav Rabbeinu Yonah, says Rabbeinu Yonah, the mehacha, from here he says you learn, shaminan, the perek rishon ve'elach, if you're already after the first chapter, the first paragraph, it's only from the rabbis. Because if it was from the Torah, then they should have been concerned, right, not to also make it into second nature. In all the paragraphs. Just like we're concerned in the first paragraph. He brought also more sources for this. But it says already what we explained in this chapter. So the truth is, right, that as we said, most of the poskim hold that only the first verse is from the Torah, but this rabbi holds the whole first paragraph is from the Torah. That's also an opinion like that. But we poskim like the first opinion, which is only the first verse. Says, and then why are they so stringent about not doing all kinds of alternate activities? In the first paragraph, more than the other ones, because that's where you accept the yoke of heaven, the first paragraph. Even though it's not from the Torah, but there is an acceptance of the yoke of heaven there. Says the rabbi says, Sham, where is this? In Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Lama kadma parashat Shema parashat ve'ayam Shemua. Why does the first paragraph come before the second paragraph? What's the reason why? So he says the reason is because the first paragraph is accepting the yoke of heaven. The second paragraph is accepting the yoke of the mitzvot, of the commandments. Okay, so let's see the Shulchan Aruch here. says Shulchan Aruch, Ha'omanin v'chen bal habayit, right? It says whether it's the workers or the boss, shayu osim melacha berosh ha'inyan, they're working on top of the tree, right? As we said, right? Or berosh shuvot ha'binyan, or they're working in the construction site, right? As we said, korin kriyat shema b'mkomam. They don't have to come down. They can read the kriyat shema right there where they are. Ve'enam tzrichim lered, and they don't have to come down. It says. Okay, right. As we said, for prayers, it's a little bit different, but we'll get that later on, right? In chapter 90. We're not there now, right? So we'll wait for that. So we got one more and we'll finish with the chapter. Believe it or not. Believe it or not. Okay, so we're going to Tet. Right, so there's a tour over here to read. Let's see the tour. So says the Torah at the end here, Yerushalmi, there's a Gemara Yerushalmi, Hakatef, Afa Pisha Masa'o al Kitfo, Kore et Shema. Kataf, right? So what is he talking about here? We're talking about here somebody who carries burdens, carries a load on his shoulders. In the old days, people used to carry on their shoulders all kinds of stuff. Today, it's people are lazy, they don't want to carry anything. Right? They got machines that are doing that stuff. And nobody wants to do any manual labor today. So especially Jews, they don't want to do. Jews don't like to do manual labor. They don't like that. So they're a little bit spoiled, the Jews. We did enough already when we were in Egypt, right? In Mitzrayim, we did enough over there. So we already fulfilled the obligation. Right, so it says like this, right? That so if you're carrying a burden on your shoulder, right? The question is, are you allowed to read the Shema like that, or does that distract you? The fact that you have a burden on you. Right, that's the question. But he says, you know what? You can read like that, no problem. If you have a load on your shoulders. But don't start the Shema when you're like putting the load on or taking it off, right? Because then you're distracted at that time. When you're removing it or putting it on, that's not the time to start the Shema. That's what he says. He brings Yerushalmi there. Okay, so let's see the Bet Yosef. So Bet Yosef brings just the source over here, which is where? Perek Haya Kore, over there, right? In the which is in the Yerushalmi Brachot. Very good. Okay, so that's the end of that Bet Yosef. So we'll just do a Shulchan Aruch and we're done. So says Shulchan Aruch, Kataf, right? Who's a Kataf? Somebody who carries a burden on his shoulders. Even though he has now the burden on his shoulders, correct Kriyat Shema, he's allowed to read Kriyat Shema. But he says, we shouldn't start at the time where he's putting it on his shoulders, right? He's distracted at that time. Also when he's taking it off, right? So that's not the time to start. Why? Because he's not concentrating. So as we already mentioned before, right? According to what we mentioned before, what would be the time that he could actually put the burden on or take it off? Which period of the Kriyat Shema can he do that? Only after the first paragraph, right? Because before that, he can't do labor, as we said, right? So once you finish the first paragraph, then you can like put something on or take it off. No problem. But the first paragraph, don't do that stuff, right? Keep your mind and your body clean. Okay, good, right? So that's the idea. Good, very nice. So we're finished with that. We still have a little bit more time, so we can try a little bit more. If you guys have any questions, by the way, about Shavuot, you can ask me while I'm bringing up the new chapter here. I ask a question, guys, a question, right? Do the ladies stay up all night on Shavuot like the men do?
These ladies do.
So the truth is, that they don't have this mitzvah. You know what I mean? So, if you want to get a good night's sleep, be my guest.
What if we want to study?
If you want to study, why not? Sure, you can try that, But the truth is, that I'll tell you something interesting. When I was younger, in my younger days, when I used to have my hair was colored, right? So my hair had a certain color there. So in those good old days, I remember, that there was this modern Orthodox synagogue that we used to go to because it was like next to the other synagogue. So like we would like go back and forth. So what we saw over there is that the ladies were coming there in the modern Orthodox place to also do that all-nighter thing, So the truth is that in the real synagogues, the ladies don't come for that. So in other words, because it's not customary for the ladies to do this. So therefore, the proper thing to do, if a lady wants to stay up all night, that she should do it at home, not in the shul. Don't come to shul, and hang around there all night, A woman shouldn't be in the shul late night like that. It's not proper. So, right, so if she wants to do it, do it at home. That's the proper thing to do.
What if they're single and they want to meet somebody?
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? I'll tell you something. You have a good question, by the way. So you know what it is? That the night of Shavuot is not singles night. You got it, David? It's a learning night. It's not the time for singles.
Can we make it also in conjunction with learning?
You should not. You should not, because the whole point of staying up is only for Torah study. Otherwise, better go to sleep, get some rest. If Hashem wants to bring you your shidduch, your soulmate, He won't bring it to you that night in the shul. That's not the time. In fact, you could pretty much be sure that if you met a lady that night, in the shul or whatever, right? That's the wrong lady, because she shouldn't be out there at that time. That's what it is, Yeah.
Well, I wasn't talking about myself. I was talking about
Right, I understand, Joe. Yeah, we're just talking in general. Yeah, of course, we're talking in theory. That's not singles night, Shavuot. It's not singles night.
Well, I rather have a lady there, whether she's obligated or not to be there, than on 7th Avenue and in the corner of.
Well, I don't know what to tell you about that, but okay, that's a different issue. But
right.
So so Shavuot, as we said, right? It's only for learning. When you're coming there, it's not a hangout.
Well, let me ask you then.
Don't turn it into a hangout. If you turn Shavuot night into a hangout, you totally defeated the purpose.
So is that the only time it's really improper to flirt with someone there, while services are going on, or
they shouldn't be there, they shouldn't even be there. So, if you're flirting with her, it may be, I don't know, maybe it's a demon, because the woman shouldn't be out that time.
I see. So
I'm not sure if it's a woman. I'm not sure.
David, go to shul, study all night, and on that merit, you will meet your shidduch. For sure. Yeah, no question about it. So there you go.
Everybody's under the impression I'm talking about myself.
He's just curious. He's curious. Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious because when we were younger, I mean, at least me, and my father would. Well, my father was an atheist, but when we'd go on a holy day, whether it was Rosh Hashanah, girls used to show up there dressed very.
Right. Yeah, you're talking about the high holy days, right? Yeah.
Yeah, on let's put it this way: they weren't dressed properly, and
of course
we look at the girls all the time, and
Of course, so they weren't dressed properly. That's for sure. But anyway, as we said, so women shouldn't be there. But if
they were young and they didn't know better.
Yeah, the truth is, that everybody has their own role. In Judaism, women have a certain role, men have a certain role. And so. Especially the women who are married, they have to take care of their family, so they don't have time for that stuff. They don't really, women who are raising children, and taking care of their husbands, they don't have time to stay up all night and learn Torah. They'll maybe learn for a little while, go to sleep, but that's it, right? That's the idea, So
Yeah, there are no women that take care of their husbands anymore.
Well, maybe Hashem will send you one.
No,
But
again,
right,
I'm not talking about myself. I'm
I
just
understand.
saying.
But
Yeah.
as we said, right, that but I'll tell you something. If you really want to stay up all night, what's the secret? How do you do it? Right? How do you stay up all night without dozing off?
You take a nap during the day.
Exactly. You gotta take like a 2 or 3 hour nap. Right? 3 is even better.
Yeah, I think I did that with.
If the Yetzer Hara bothers you that day and doesn't let you take a nap, that means you're not going to make it.
Yeah, I think I did that with you guys, right? A couple of years ago.
Yeah, we used to do it in the Bukharian shul. Remember in 71st? Over there.
Yeah, but I did it with you in this one.
Right, you were there one. Yeah, like 2 years ago. You were there 3 years ago.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
and I'm not doing it again because I got very sick that night.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Why? Why'd you get sick?
Because I even though I don't really sleep well at night, I can't tolerate something like that.
I got it. Okay, so anyway, it's not really an obligation according to halakha,
Yeah.
It's a custom. But here's the thing, right? If you do it, I'm talking about the guys, of course. The women is optional, whatever, as we said. But the guys, if you want to do it, there's a very big blessing you get, for this. Staying up all night, not to smoke cigarettes, right? Not to gossip, not to look at your whatever, all kinds of things. We're talking about people who stay up to learn, right? Not to waste time.
Yeah.
They're doing that, they get a very special bracha, that they say nothing bad will happen to them all year. They'll be protected, and they're considered to be very, very prominent in heaven. They have a big name up there, people who do this. So therefore, right, the ones who are very energetic, they try to do it as much as they can, to get that special blessing, get the special blessing.
Right. All right.
Do we get a blessing too?
I'm sorry?
If we do it optional, do we get a big blessing too?
Well, it's as we said, right? Even for the men, it's optional. So we're all pretty much optional there. It's just that the custom is for the men and not really for the women. So therefore, they shouldn't come to the shul. They shouldn't do that. Yeah.
All night at home.
Yeah, at home. I mean, if you really want to do it and you planned it out good, and that's fine. That's great. All the power to you. It's just like any other optional mitzvah that a person does. If he wants to be a part of it, that's great. But you have to know how to do. That's all. Okay, very good. I guess we'll stop there. Baruch Hashem. We'll start the next chapter next time. Tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. Be blessed with wealth, health, happiness, all the good things. Have a great holiday. Be holy, be happy. And see you tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem.
Thank you.
All the best.